This video obviously contains spoilers for Chapter 5 and the rest of Deltarune. Please play Deltarune before watching this video, or just in general. It's a great game, and I don't think watching people play it or watching these theories could ever amount to the feeling of actually playing it. In this video, I will be doing two things. One is basically getting all of the little bits of lore and information about the lake in combination with some of my own speculation, to create an idea of why the lake is so important, and why the Snowgrove scene took place there, and its place in the wider story. Two, I will be talking about why Dark Fountains have been being opened for seemingly years, and how I think this will work within the prophecy and the evidence to suggest there was a previous fun gang which Chris was a part of. But before we dive into the lake and see what lies below, I must explain a concept beforehand. This concept is that the light world is a layer of reality, which below this layer is the dark world, which you get between the two of them through Dark Fountain. And then on top of this layer is the program layer, which is how we, the real world, interact with the dark worlds and light worlds. It's how we play the game. These express themselves in the way of menus and the weird bits in the code that are named bizarrely by seemingly Gaster as. Just cutting in really quickly because I realized I didn't actually name any of these. These would be stuff like image underscore friend, ooh, the funny one, device underscore contact, device underscore gonna make it, device underscore device underscore image underscore. And I'm pretty sure this concept originates from Molly Starr's device theory videos, as we were given the survey program, which is the original name for Deltarune's executable, by Gaster based on how Toby Fox was tweeting I think 2 days or the day before the original release of the first chapter. Now, before we can start the case of Onion-san? Onion? The wiki said Onion for Deltarune, Onion-san for Undertale. Anyways, doesn't matter. We need to put on our investigative outfits. Now that we are appropriately dressed, let's go over the case of Onion. Our only point of reference is our favourite non-binary person that we paid money to a dog that calls itself a fox to control, Chris. Now, through their eyes, what do we know of Onion? Well, Onion was lonely, forgot their name, and let's keep this between friends. Here's a familiar song they've forgotten, calling to them at night, apparently from the ocean. Now, why does this matter at all? Well, hearing and talking about this song to Chris seems to have gotten Onion killed. They disappear after chapter 3, well, we can't put them in chapter 3, but in chapter 4 they don't reappear. Now, in chapter 5, in the festival, you can go to a stall that is selling octopus balls. Now, why does this matter? Well, if you actually receive for free one of these balls, they apparently, according to Susie, taste like raw onion. They don't taste like, they just straight up onion. Now, do I need to explain why onion would taste like raw onion? I believe the NPC who runs that stall, the weird blue and yellow bent over bird, killed Onion. Now, this bird character, I'm accusing them of murder for one, but what motive do they have? Why do I think they killed them? Well, other than the fact that the bulls are literally just raw onion and onion is onion. I believe this bird is a Gaster follower, or at least, like, the non-copy version. As we know from Man Country, I think that's what it's called, the chapter 3 egg room, copies are monochrome, and Gaster followers in Undertale, they were monochrome versions of sprites either in the game or sprites in this game. And this bird looks very similar to one of the Gaster followers, but the Gaster follower looks more like a mouth than a bird. And I believe that in Deltarune, they are also still a Gaster follower. They are working for Gaster, and I think they're actually from Undertale. I think somehow WD Gaster, using the program layer, is also able to access Undertale and has brought them from here, leaving behind a monochrome copy, and that's why they use G in their festival instead of dollars. why they act a bit weird, talk a bit weird, is because they're actually from Undertale. They've been taken out of Undertale, and left behind is the monochrome version we see if we have a certain, I think, fun value. The same funny value lets us see what people think Ghast looks like, the mystery man. They were taken out from there, seemingly the same way Ghast is able to interact with Deltarune through the program layer, the device, I guess, I don't really know what to call it. And they were taken out of there because they're a Ghast follower. They do Ghast's bidding. They were taken out of Undertale and into Deltarune. And in Deltarune, they seemingly check for people who are getting too close to the lake, or the song from the lake. And as we've seen with Onion, they kill them. Now, why is the lake so important that, these Ghast followers seemingly need to kill someone just for having a slight interest in wanting to investigate where a song in the lake is coming from? Why is the lake so important? What happened in the lake? Who is there? What's going on with it? Well, I believe we get the answer in the Weird Root scene in Chapter 5, where after talking to Noelle about how she, wanted to fly away and leave the town, which we know she felt like in the normal route, because her talk with Susie, but Susie makes her want to stay and suppress that feeling. But in the normal route, we've obviously stopped them from getting close and replaced it with this weird sort of toxic relationship between what they think is Chris, but it's actually us, and them. Through, the trance, we put them with the Thorn Ring and making them stronger. And through making them stronger, we've seemingly been able to make them strong enough to proceed through the lake outside of the game's play layer. That's why I think it goes pure white and why the glitching, the game starts glitching, because we're not where we're supposed to be. It's like we've gone out of bounds, effectively. And the game, I don't know if it crashes or if we break into the program layer, but I think somehow, eventually, we end up in the program layer. That is why we need Chapter 7 Side B, why it's so, immersion breaking. It's intentionally designed to look, like a machine asking you for it. It's not in the game. We know what the game's menu looks like. This is intentionally meant to look like you're viewing it through an old, glitchy monitor. I believe the reason for this style change is so that you're in the program layer. You know that you're where the Gonna Maker scene is, where the Chapter 1 select, visuals come from. It's meant to be like the device. It's meant to be the program you interact with the game with. So in short, I believe what lies below, down in the lake, is the program layer. Why else do I think this lake is connected to the program layer in some way? What other evidence is there? Well, in Bitroots, if you overlay the map on top of Hometown, the room with the monster you take control of when you press the button, the black monster, its room is over the top of the lake. Now, the monster, if you put a function called Toriel to true, the white robe, which we know is Noelle, turns into a regular deer. More evidence that's Noelle. But the black monster turns into a black deer. Now, Carol isn't a black deer. Rudy isn't a black deer. And though we haven't actually seen Des, I believe that she is the knight, which would, since it's pure black, since it has antlers, I believe it is her body, and that would be used to represent her in stuff like, the mini games. The important thing is, she is in the lake. And, you know what else I think connects to Des is in the lake? Well, in the program layer, which is in the lake, the voice in the code. The voice in the code is this dialogue, unused dialogue in Deltarune's code that gets updated with each chapter. The first one, they're asking where they are. The second one, they're asking if anyone here. And the third one, they have a nightmare, a dream, where there's a door that slams behind them. In the fourth chapter, they're talking about how they don't need to eat or drink anymore. And in the most recent chapter, they're talking about how they just have their memories left. And maybe that's all I am at this point, a collection of memories. They're questioning, if they're anything more than their memories. Almost as if they are a person who fell into the program layer through the lake, who had their mind ripped from their body, their mind stayed in the program layer, and that is the current voice that we are able to find in the code, and their body floated back up to the top of the lake after being exposed to this insane sort of dark energy. I believe that the program layer has some sort of purer form of darkness than the Dark Worlds, due to the dark fountains, which I think are pure darkness, having the same sort of water wavy texture that the Gonna Maker scene has. So, and after Dez's body got exposed to dark energy, I think it crystallized around her, making the night due to the antlers and her sprite and bits roots being pure black. Now, what is actually in the lake? Well, I believe an entrance to the program layer is in the lake, which is why we proceed, and break into the program layer. It's there. I think it because of the bit roots. Dez is in the lake, and she is the voice in the code, which would line up with, you know, her disappearance. She disappears into the lake, her mind gets sucked into the program, her body comes up as a night, dark fountains start being made. I believe that is what happened, because of, you know, we know from chapter 5 that dark fountain's been made for ages, and we will be in this program layer for at least chapter 7 side B, and for some reason we'll need context from chapter 6 and chapter 7 side A to understand what's going on, which is why it's not being released with chapter 6. Also, another reason why I think it's connected to Lake is because the Gonna Maker scene has waves, the fountains has waves in its textures, they're all water, you know, they're water textures, and on top of that, darkness is linked to water. It's said to flow like water, and it has fountains, so that would be, it's linked, it's obviously linked to water, like the lake. Now, in this last bit, I'm going to talk about what I think, how the prophecy changes in the weird route, the normal route, and also how I believe it's been happening before. Now, in the normal route, I think, you know, Susie is the girl, the love that finds its way to her is obviously Noelle, Chris is the cage of human parts, and Rouse is the Prince of Darkness. Now, in the Snowgrave route, or the weird route, I believe this changes to Noelle being the girl, because she is the main driving force, the thing making things happen, since that seems to be the role of the girl, and the love that finds its way to her is either level of violence from, you know, Undertale, or it is our love for her character, or the characters that we want to do Snowgrave similarly to prevent something from happening, or just because we want to see this happen. We want to see what happens if we do this to our beloved characters. Now, the cage is still Chris, and the prince, I assume, is still Rouse, unless something changes rapidly. Now, into the more interesting part of the second theory. I believe that the prophecy has happened at least once before. I think this because I don't know if it's been done with the exact same people. I know Chris was involved in some way, but I don't think Chris would have been, you know, part of the main fun gang. I think they would have been more like, you know, how Noelle and Birdley are treated in chapter 2. We know this because, you know, there's a save file with Chris's name beforehand, like before chapter 1, which we save over. And Rouse asks if they've done this before during the tutorial segment of the you know, the game of the first chapter. And I mean, that's it really, but I think it's an interesting concept, and that's why I wanted to voice it in this video. Thank you for watching. I've had fun making this video. This is my first video I ever made. I will be making stuff about, like, Persona. I'm doing an analysis of Persona 5, which hopefully will be a lot less slapped together like this one was, and obviously a lot less rushed, because, I mean, Persona 5's been out for ages. Nobody's begging for a new video on it. I might also do some videos on stuff like my D&D campaign and its story, and also my theoretical idea for a game I hopefully will make in the future. Any ways I can improve, please tell me, and have a good rest of your day.